Hey guys, it's and today I'm gonna be showing you how to make your basses sound even better. So let's say you made a patch that sounds something like this. This is raw serum. There's no post-processing on this. So this is what the patch sounds without any type of post-processing. It doesn't sound bad for a beginner. But let's say you want to make your bass sound better. Sound like one of those top tier producers like Virtual Ride, Skrillex, Barely Alive, Songboy. This goes on and on and on and on. So let's click this here where it says track, and it will send it to a track, and then start adding some effects. So the first effect I like to add is a OTT, and basically I don't play around much with it other than like just loading it in, and let's see how it changes up the sound. So it definitely adds like sharp transient at the beginning of the sound. If you notice, like there's a very strong click when the sound starts. So the second thing I like to do for this kind of bass is making it mono. So usually to make it mono, I take here a stereo enhancer, take this knob here, says stereo separation, set it to 100% merge. Just gonna make your bass sound mono. It's just gonna remove all that stereo separation and just combine it together. Sounds something like this. So before. And I really like to do this because then I add a flanger or a chorus. So I'm gonna add the flanger here, and I'm gonna set the delay here up to 7 milliseconds, and this is gonna add some stereo to this. Also, I like to, for this bass I want to make it very metallic also sounding. The flanger is good for adding that metallic sound, but you can control how much metal you want it to sound, like how metallic you want it to sound here with the feedback knob. I usually like to, I don't go past 40%, but I don't go lower than 20%. So usually 40%, that's my go-to. And here in the rate, I like to set it to around 10 hertz or 0.10 hertz, whatever you like to call it. So let's see what that does. So it adds like that metallic sounding effect to it. Then I like to add a chorus to this. So I go here to chorus. And this is the tricky part. What I did is I played around with it a lot and then did this preset, which you can copy here. The knobs number, so the delay is set to around 3 milliseconds, the depth is at 1.5 milliseconds, 74 degrees, and here the LFO knobs are set very low at around 1 hertz each. Here the cross cutoff is in high pass filter around 320 hertz. So basically this is what like my stereo widening effect thing. And this is what returns a lot of the stereo you had before, but it makes it sound a bit cleaner and also adds a lot more metallic sound to the bass. Then it's optional, but you can add a EQ, have it here, set it to high cut, and cut around those high end, like just around here, cuts off some of the high end, maybe take some of these sounds here, let's see. Maybe remove these sounds over here as well. Maybe something like this. And then here I add a second OTT, and then add some of those high sounds back. Essentially, we're adding some fake high end to this with the OTT. The OTT is basically pushing those mid-range sounds up to the high end. It sounds very nice, very metallic. And then the next thing I do is usually I'd go here to Patcher and I'd load up a preset, but since you guys probably don't have a preset, I'll link it in the description. It's essentially a fat rack. What it does, it adds some stereo, you have stereo knob, and it also distorts the sound by a lot. This is basically a compression distortion plugin. It's made by a buddy of mine called Lightchart. It's my favorite patcher preset so far. And let's see how it plays with the sound. So I'm gonna turn the stereo off, turn this off. And let's start adding, let's add it at around 25%, 50%, 75%. See how it starts to distort the sound a lot. I usually like to keep it around here, but for this case too much, so I'm gonna keep it around 40%. And let's add some stereo to this. And without this, so it sounds very nice. I really like that plugin. And last but not least, I like to add a sound equalizer to this. I don't know, the sound equalizer adds a nice final touch to that bass, and let's see how it sounds. So let's clone this and try a different type of rack for our effects to add some variation. So obviously let's first start with the OTT, but then instead of adding a flanger, I'm gonna add a effector to this. So I'm gonna keep this stereo, I'm not gonna mono it. I'm gonna add this phaser, and I'm gonna take this Y parameter, which is basically the resonance of the phaser, lower it down. Let's see how that sounds. And then I take this knob here, which is the dry wet knob, set it around 30%, 40% depending. Then I'm gonna add a EQ, see how this affects the sound. So I wanna take these sounds here and squish them down, maybe around, same around here and around here. And then I'm gonna add a EQ to this. Well, I'm sorry, not an EQ, a OTT. It's starting to sound somewhat nice. Let's add the fat rack to this again. And the sound equalizer. So basically, even though they're quite similar, in this one, the flanger is what's doing most of the metal sound with the chorus. So let's see how it sounds without those two things. So basically, here are two tips for making basses. We're making the same bass. This bass, let me turn off. And beefing it up, adding a lot of variation to this. So let's take this third one, make a third bass out of this. I'm gonna add, let's try to combine these two and see how they sound. So again with the OTT, but this time I'm gonna raise the time up 500%. I'm gonna add some high end, remove some mids, and keep up some lows. And then I'm gonna add the EQ in this part. So making a different kind of curve for this. And let's add a chorus, but before the chorus, let's keep the effector. Let's kick it in, phaser, and for this one, I'm gonna raise the X mod and the tempo mod. Let's disable the bypass. I forgot to enable in this one the zero widener. And again, let's turn this down to like 20%. And this adds that nice resonant metallic sound thing. So let's add another EQ. Let's boost these frequencies. Let's see. Let's add a teeny bit of flanging to that metallic sound. Let's keep these two intact. Let's just play with these two. And let's add some OTT. Let's set the time down to 50% or 60. Let's keep like that. Let's add the patcher preset. Again, I'm gonna link it down in the description. So immediately you notice what's making this resonant sound is here. This. So to disable that, so that you don't have that pitch sound, we here take this noise gate and the limiter. Let's turn off this so it doesn't affect our sound. Let's raise the threshold and turn off the gain. And let's see how this sounds. And let's add the sound equalizer to finish the sound. And see how nicely we took two differently post-processed basses and combined them here, making this nice bass. Another thing that can make your basses sound more diverse is going here to the matrix and adding some LFO fun to it. So I'm gonna route this to LFO 3, which is gonna be this LFO. I'm gonna set this to a global master tune. I'm gonna set this up to 2. And then to control if I want pitch or not, I'm gonna set this to micro 1. I'm gonna call this pitch bend. And if I set it here like this, first let's enable it. If we set it 100%, it's enabled. And by pressing Alt, I'm snapping here to the grid lines, to the grid dots. So that's a nice feature. Let's see how it sounds around 5. That's too much. Oh, let's set this around 3. And one last tip to make your basses when post-process like this is setting this to free. Well, let's set this all to free and adding some like dynamics, not dynamics, if not variation in low lengths. So for example, See how it adds some more fun to it. So for example, if I take here, and also I can do this with all three, so free, free. See how we start adding some more fun, more diverse sounds to this. So let's say this, I want this one at 2 and this one at 4. Or let's say I want this one at 3, like so. Or this one at 3, this one at 2. And see how we start adding some different types of sounds. And then to end this, what I do, since you're never gonna get the same bass sound again, I'm gonna go here into Edison. I'm gonna set this on to fillet, set this to infinite loop, and record the bass sound. So this way, I can keep a copy of the sound and start making some sample packs, from personal sample packs for me to use when I need some ideas for bass designs and whatnot. Or if I'm just making a track and want to use a bass and I'm like, I don't have the time to remake this bass, or I really liked it when I was playing around with sound design, you can make different loops and have different variety of the bass for you to use in future projects. So this is fun thing, and also you can resample this and make cool things, for example in Harmor or other plugins. So this is a cool thing to do as well. It's like to resample here, record your basses. So yeah, this was my tutorial. Hope this was useful for you guys. I hope you guys learned a lot with this. This is surely a pro tip for you guys, so hopefully you guys improve your production game with these tips. And yeah, this was